watching. When you end up watching, I am streaming live on February 8th, 2022, and it is just 1 minute past noon here in Southern California. But these are timeless readings, so whenever you watch it, trust that the time is right for you. So today we're going to be doing the fire sign readings. I'm going to be using for the readings this week the Luminous Void Tarot. I'm also going to be using a tarot deck of my own design, which is, I call it the Lunacy deck. And it's not just a tarot deck. It is actually the major arcana from the tarot. And I crocheted this little bag for it. I like doing crochet projects also. Crochet and tatting and other such things. So, the three parts of this deck, there's the major arcana cards, there's the moon phase cards, and finally there are also the lunar mansions. And I'm trying to learn my lunar mansions, so these cards help with that. And then if you are interested in additional scryed messages, after I'm done with the general reading, I go over to the members side of the channel and I do crystal scrying for the general elemental energy of the day. And this week I'm using this beautiful slab of California plasma agate, and I really love scrying with this because there's all these little whorls and clusters of lacunae or cavities or whatever you want to call them, and parts of it are a little bit translucent, and there's lots of veins in it as well. So it provides a very interesting surface for scrying. And I am wearing Fundy Fridays merch today, just in case you are wondering what my t-shirt says. Typically, the shirt is not fully visible in the frame, but I like this shirt. I haven't really worn it much yet. So, idle hands are the devil's fleshlight. And to clear the space this morning, I'm going to be using this little pomegranate colored candle. It might be pomegranate scented as well. It might be cranberry scented. It is a Christmas themed candle according to the original packaging, but we are going to be using it for the flame. So just kind of focus on the flame. And let's do a breathing exercise as well today. So if you like, you can take a deep breath in. And as you breathe in, I want you to imagine the divine white light of Source coming directly down through the crown of your head and filling you completely from the top of your head down into the bottoms of your feet and past the soles of your feet and down into the ground. And then as you exhale, just sigh out any tension, any negative vibrations that you've been holding on to, anything that you would like to leave behind as we travel forward through the next weeks, months, years, through your long and prosperous life. And if you like, you can also imagine, while you are breathing these deep, contemplative, healing breaths, you can imagine that you are trying to blow out the flame. Because remember, you are carrying out all of the negative energy that you've been holding on to. You're letting it go. And you're releasing it back into the divine flame of Source and allowing it to be burned away and transmuted into positive, radiating vibrations. So just take a few deep breaths. Wonderful, 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 wonderful. And just let it go. Let everything go. But do allow to come to the forefront of your mind any concerns that you might have for the next week, month, year, etc., so that they can be addressed during the reading. And these cards are a very strange shape, so I shuffled them quite a bit ahead of time. So I'm going to go ahead and deal the cards out for the fire sign of Aries. Okay. Fire sign of Aries. And let me write down the timestamp. And I will also deal out these cards. Yes. Okay. This one. Yes. Interesting. Oh, we also have a jumper of the High Priest. So the High Priest jumped out. And then the card that I actually pulled was the Devil. So we've got a fight between the clergy and between evil. Let's see what we have here. Waning gibbous moon energy. All right, so Aries. I pulled the Devil card, and then actually the High Priest card jumped out, almost like this figure is chasing the devil. Call it despot in this deck. This is the letter O. This is Omicron, not to be confused with other uses of the Greek letters. And this is actually, I used Coptic letters in this deck. The value of the letter Omicron in the Coptic alphabet is 70, so it also represents the number 70. The energy of the devil card is Capricorn. And you can see that this is an Iron Maiden, a torture device. We have gold depicted on the back of the card because sometimes people allow themselves to be controlled by money. And we also have this shadowy figure back here that often people can control you and you don't even realize it. And we have, following that, the Hierophant. So that's Taurus energy, which is also an earth sign. We have, this main figure here. These are petroglyphs, and it was behind it is a doorway from Chaco Canyon, one of the buildings there. And the Coptic letter here is Su, and the value of this letter is 6. So if you are fighting things that are controlling you at this time, Aries, it looks like you do have some help. This figure is also surrounded by these other figures. So I think there is aid coming to you in that regard. I am going to put the Hierophant card back in the deck, just so I'm only pulling one card for each sign, but I wanted to make sure that I addressed that as it had come out. The lunar mansion energy that we have here is Aldira. Now, Aldira means the forearm, and in our modern astrology, these stars are associated with Castor and Pollux, the twins, Gemini. But under the system in which the Arabic lunar mansions were created, Aldira was the forearm of a great celestial lion. So I am going to read from Mansions of the Moon for this because I'm still learning, and I want to make sure I get it right. I tried going by rote and I wasn't getting things quite right, so I want to make sure that I'm giving you the proper information. So yes, the forearm and the two stars are Alpha Geminorum and Beta Geminorum, and we now call those stars Castor and Pollux. And the main things to remember about this lunar mansion has to do with the cosmic axis pole, divine order, glorification, supplication, invocation, and gain. So this is very good for gain. Aldira advises that we pray only for positive results, resisting influences of envy or ill wishes toward anyone. So that also would go along with what we were seeing with that dichotomy between the devil and the Hierophant. So additionally, I pulled a lunar cycle card, and we have waning gibbous. So this is immediately following the full moon. You could take this to mean the full moon that will be happening in the middle of this month, so in a few days' time. Excuse me. But the waning gibbous energy is also right after the peak of the sun's light reflecting off of the moon. So this is when the moon's energy is thought to start depleting and ebbing again. So this influence might be something that you are now starting to push out of your life, and soon it will be completely out of your life with the proper effort and work put in. Let's look here at the past of this situation, Aries. We have the Magus card. So this is the magician. We have depicted here the swords, the wands, the chalices, the pentacles, that this figure has control over the four elements, mastery of the four elemental implements, and over the minor arcana of the tarot in general. This is a card about manifestation. So you could have been going through a very strong cycle of manifestation in the past. And because this card is in the reverse, we see that that cycle is now complete for you, Aries. Here in the current situation, we have the Death card, which is about transformational change. Death is crossing of a threshold between the two worlds. And so you are moving on to something brand new and leaving a lot of things behind. This is crossed by the Ace of Swords. Ace of Swords has a very similar energy to the Death card, but the implication with the Ace of Swords, Aries, is that you are wielding this sword. It is elemental air energy, so perhaps you also have strong air sign energies in your chart. But these two energies definitely go together. Now, this could be a result of all of this manifestation from the past, but it could also just mean that you are entering a new cycle of manifesting things for yourself. Here in the Imam Silai, so when I read the Celtic Cross, I like to imagine that there are the 12 houses laid out on top of the Celtic Cross spread. So the card down at the bottom would be at the cusp of the third and fourth houses, the Imam Silai. And this placement shows us things that are going on in the current environment. These could be environmental factors. These can also be occurrences that are happening currently, concurrent to what we see here with the significator and the crossing card, such that these are the factors that we'll be looking at again when we look at the midheaven in the future. That these are things that will contribute to that outcome. And we have here, looks like you, Aries, showing up as the King of Wands. King of Wands is air of fire energy. So you are alchemizing. We have this pure elemental air energy. So if you are wielding that at this time, Aries, then you can alchemize that with your own fire energy. Now he is holding a wand here, just to clarify. But it is the discernment applied to creative pursuits and pursuits about which you are passionate, such that the King of Wands is a strong leader, someone who leads through their charm and their charisma. Here in the future, now this card is reversed, so that means that it's a potential, but not necessarily that it's guaranteed to come to pass, but the potential is here for yet another change. Now, we already have the Death card in the reading, so the Tower card could go along with that. That sometimes things will change very quickly, and then they'll change again very quickly. The potential is there for this as well. So know that if things fall in a certain way and you're not quite happy with them, the cycle may not be over yet. The Tower card can be destructive change, but that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. And your outcome for this reading. This is the card in the midheaven position. So this is the goal or destiny of what is going on here. That we have the Seven of Cups. And this is a wonderful card to get in this position, Aries, because you have all of these potential options opening up to you. Now, some of them are going to be not very good. Some of them are going to be amazing. Some of them have the potential to lead you right back to where you had come from. Some of them might be aligned with this. I do see that there, with this energy of Aldera as the lunar mansion, that you have, and because we had the Hierophant card jump out, that you might have made an appeal to a higher power in order to rid yourself of whatever this devil represents, depending on what your demons are. But I do see that you're making changes to push that out of your life at this time, Aries. So I wish you the best of luck. It does look like you are headed in the right direction and that you will eventually be successful. So now we are going to move on to the sun, rising, and moon sign, and Venus sign, and whatever you like to watch readings for the sign of Leo. And I'm going to turn these cards over, and that way when I go over and do the crystal scrying in the extended, those cards will be available to me to reference. So, as I mentioned at the beginning of the Aries reading, I did shuffle these cards quite a bit off camera because they're very cumbersome. So I will shuffle them a little bit just to mix them up. But with the way that I do the readings, I leave the cards out anyway. So I don't necessarily need to mix them up every time. Leo, if you want to just kind of focus on what you would like to get some information about, what you'd like to know more about, if it stresses you out, just take part in that breathing exercise we had talked about earlier. And imagine yourself inhaling the divine white light of Source, and then exhaling any stress, tension, or pain that you wish to have transmuted. Interesting. Okay. And oh, wonderful. You've gotten a very sexy lunar mansion, Leo, going into Valentine's Day. It's not Valentine's Day yet, but I think I think this is the last round of readings that I'll be doing for everybody before Valentine's Day. Let me just mark down your timestamp here. Okay. So, the card that I got for you from this deck is the Wheel of Fortune. This is the letter Kaba. The value that it holds is 20. We have the planet of Jupiter, wealth and expansion, and also related to Thursday. Jupiter is also the ruling planet of Sagittarius, and in some archaic systems of Pisces as well. Back when the solar system only had 7 planets that had been discovered. So all of classical astrology is based around that. So you could also think about this as Sagittarius or Pisces energy. The Wheel of Fortune is about how cycles change. And when it is showing up here, we're talking about cycles changing to your favor. Circumstances shifting to your benefit, especially when it comes to wealth and expansion. The waning crescent moon is the very tail end of the sun's reflected light coming off of the moon, and the very tail end of the moon's energy cycle for any given month, give or take. The lunar cycles are about 28 days, so it's about a month long. So there is some cycle that it's coming to an end for you and is going to herald in benefits. But you're kind of dealing with like the very last embers of a dying fire as far as something that you might have had to put out. The lunar mansion that I have for you this week, Leo, is Al-Awa. This is the first proper lunar mansion in the sign of Virgo. It is heralded by, I think this is Avijava. Let's see. I want to make sure I'm reading from the book because I'm still learning these things. And I want to tell you things that are correct and not things that I just think I remember. Yes, Beta Virginis is also the star Zavijava. And I can't quite read which stars are which on here. But Al-Awa has to do with the wings of Virgo. It also means a barking dog. So things that it is auspicious for is increase of trade and personal money, increase of harvests, completion of buildings, and for liberating captives. Keywords are conjunction, erotic bond, alchemical marriage, union, section, sexuality, and vital energy. So goes along with the Jupiterian energy that we saw with the Wheel of Fortune, that perhaps some things are drawing to a close so that these other things can open up for you. Here in the past, we have the 10 of Cups. So we do see also that there is a emotional cycle coming to an end. The 10 of Cups is an emotional satiety. It has to do with building a family. It can have to do with getting married and having a life that you build with another person. And we do have this card in the upright in the past. So that could be the energy that we are seeing here with the waning crescent as well. That perhaps an emotional cycle is drawing to an end for you. But this will make room for other things. Here in the current situation, we have the Seven of Wands. This card is upright. It has to do with having achieved some vantage point, some point of advantage that others are desirous to occupy. So there can be a lot of people around you who are trying to take what you have, who are trying to achieve what you have achieved. And sometimes they believe that the way to do this is that they have to take it away from you. This card is crossed by the Two of Swords. So this can be about a choice that you have to make or a choice that is available to you. The Two of Swords also has similar energies to the Lover's card. So just keep that in mind. It's not like an analog, but there are traits of the Two of Swords within the Lover's card energy. Do you choose knowledge, or do you choose a life of blissful innocence? Down here in the Imam Sili, so I imagine when I lay out my Celtic cross spread that I have the 12 houses overlaid, and so the cusp of the third and fourth houses is this card right here, and this represents the origins of what is going to be occurring up in the midheaven position in the goal or destiny. So this is like laying the foundations for that. And we have the 10 of discs here. So the 10 of discs has to do with generational wealth, being able to pass things on to future generations, your legacy, and is also about a financial completion. So because this card is showing up in the reverse here, that lets me know that there is a financial cycle for you that is coming to an end at this time. This could be leaving a job. It's not the Seven of Pentacles, so it's not like it's time to quit your job. So if you're not already leaving your job, this could also be a promotion. It could be, it wouldn't be so much a lateral move necessarily, because we're talking about a particular cycle relating to your money. So maybe you're going freelance after having worked a 9 to 5. Maybe it's the inverse, that you're letting go of your freelance gigs in favor of the stability of getting paid by one source. I'm not seeing necessarily like multiple income streams specifically related to this card, but it's a general reading. So for some of you, it might be that you start picking up multiple income streams. But this is the potential for generational wealth existing, but that you have not at this time tapped into it. In the future, we have the Empress card. And the Empress is the divine feminine in the major arcana of the tarot. But you don't have to be a woman to be involved in this energy. The Empress can also be traditionally feminine careers, like things like nursing, textile design, arts and crafts, making money on Etsy, but doesn't have to be these things. Those are more just kind of like general examples of things that have typically been separated by gender roles. But really, that's not so much the case anymore. The Empress also speaks to things that are built over time. It's a creative force similar to the Magician. However, with the Magician, um, it's kind of like a burst, and then the manifestation stands before you. With the Empress, the manifestation requires gestation. So there's the fertilization of the idea, and then gradually, over time, and sometimes with a lot of hard work, the idea is brought from the ethereal down into the physical plane. Now, with the Empress card, because it's showing up upright in the future position, you already see the means by which this will take place. You already see how this is going to take place, Leo. You do still have a choice to make. And I think it does have to do with having gotten to this point that a lot of other people actually envy. You know, you've got this emotional happiness. And now it's time to work on getting all of the pentacles in line. And the midheaven position. So this is the goal or destiny. And this card also is reversed. It is the hanged man, hanged woman, hanged person. And in this deck, rather the hanged man in general is kind of like the opposite of the world card. They have a very similar body positioning if you look at the cards next to each other. And the world card is about completions. Now, the hanged man can be about sacrificing things in favor of your own growth. So this is different from the hermit card. This is not necessarily seclusion. This is more like an actual sacrifice that you would be making. It can also be feeling like you have to self-sacrifice for the greater good. And it can also have to do with feeling stuck or feeling trapped. So some elements of the Eight of Swords there as well, but not as intensely like the Eight of Swords. This is more just like nothing doing, nothing moving, right? But I think in this particular case, even though sometimes in the future position, the reversed cards can mean that the potential for that is there. I think that what this actually indicates, Leo, for your future is that you are going to be leaving the self-sacrifice, the boredom, and the feeling like you need to give away parts of yourself to others is something that's coming out to me. You're going to be leaving that behind. And that's going to be a result of the time that you take during this period to really figure out what to do after the end of this financial cycle. That's the choice that you're going to be able to make. And I feel like whatever you end up choosing will grow into what you desire. All right, so that is going to conclude the Leo reading for this week. And now we will be moving on to the sign of Sagittarius. And Sagittarius, as I mentioned in the other two readings, I did shuffle these cards quite a bit before the video, and they're a little bit difficult and cumbersome for me to shuffle. So I'm not going to be doing like a full shuffle here, but I am going to mix them up just a little bit for your benefit. And then lay them out here. Mm-hmm. Oh, interesting. Okay. And then I will be pulling these additional cards related to the moon. This one? Yeah, I think this one. Okay. This one? Yes. Ah, yes. Sagittarius. You got your own card coming out from the major arcana. Okay. All right, so let me mark down your timestamp just so I don't forget. We have waxing crescent energy. So you have just begun, Sagittarius, a new cycle, such that the light of the sun is just starting to touch the edge of the moon again. We have this card, Economy, which is the Temperance card. And this is your energy, Sagittarius. This particular path on path working is Samach. Now, of course, I didn't use Hebrew letters in this. I used Coptic letters. This is the Coptic letter. I'm still learning all this stuff, so I want to make sure I get it right. This is Xi. The letter Xi has the value of 60. But I put on this card a representation of a headless entity. Now, I think this is a representation from the British Isles, and I don't quite remember his name. But the reason that I put him on here is because of the bornless rite, the ekephalon, which means headless. And it is about this entity, which is sometimes associated with the constellation Orion, and is seen as not having a head and as being the progenitor of all the other gods. And there is a mastery that comes with this. And of course, the association being that Liber Samach is related to that part of the path when you're working your way through, I think, Golden Dawn hierarchy. I hope that makes sense. So the lunar mansion that we have associated with this is Al-Zubra, which is the mane of the lion. And I want to read from the book. Again, I'm still learning these things. And I want to make sure I get it right, because I think last week I started out not reading from the book and I got a few things not quite right. So, So Delta Leonis, which is the star known as Zosma, is the indicator star for this lunar mansion. And I think they're talking about this star right up here, kind of like on the rump of the lion. This has to do with lordship, mastery, numinous charisma, so charisma that brings you money, reverence, awe, worship, and prestige. Power, gain, and respect. It indicates a positive answer to questions concerning profit and gain, particularly when seeking a position of authority or making a request to a person in authority, such as a boss or a client. So where we're talking about this mastery, this would be a lunar mansion associated with the financial gain that comes through that kind of mastery. And this is going to be the very beginning of that cycle for you, Sagittarius. We have here the Three of Wands in the past, and this is in the reverse. So what that tells me, Sagittarius, is that there was a period of time where the energy that you had put out into the world had started to come back to you. And this particular cycle is complete, and that's why the card is showing up reversed like this. But that things were coming back to you threefold. Here in the current situation, so this is the place of the significator, we have the Page of Cups. You could be making an offer, or an offer could be coming in to you. Page of Cups is water sign energy, so you might also have water prominently featured in your chart. This is also crossed by the Nine of Pentacles, which has to do with financial freedom and independence, and somewhat to do with stability. So where we have possibly this offer being made, it could have to do with being able to establish this financial freedom for yourself, especially based on the other cards that we've had come out so far. So down here in the Imam Silai, the card in the Imam Silai, I like to pretend that there's a 12 houses spread laid out. Sorry, I have a few little fruit flies in my house. I like to pretend that there's a 12 houses spread laid out on top of the Celtic cross layout. And so the cusp of the third and fourth houses down at the bottom is called the Imam Silai, and it is the foundation upon which your future outcome will be built, if that makes sense. So in this case, we have the Two of Cups, and it's coming out reversed. This could be a breakup if you are in a romantic relationship. It doesn't have to be. The Two of Cups could be a falling out of some kind. It could be a card of separation. And I'm saying this so you're going to know if this applies to you or not and how it applies to you. So let me try to give a few different scenarios. This could also be about, because we have this other card with the Page of Cups, it could be something like an offer being made by somebody else that is breaking you away from whatever this Two of Cups situation represents. Two of Cups can also be just a very close-knit friendship. So it doesn't have to do necessarily with a romantic situation, but because it's showing up reversed and in the Imam Silai, it looks like there might be a situation where there's separation emotionally between you and another person. Now, in the future, we have the Four of Wands. So we have this progression, Sagittarius, from this Three of Wands in the past, where these energies were returning to you. Now we have Four of Wands here in the future, and this is upright. So this is more like a predestined energy. You might already see this coming towards you. And the Four of Wands can be a card of marriage. It is a card of celebration. And typically there is some kind of estate or house depicted on the card. And because the fourth house has to do with home and family, it can also mean buying a house, things like that. So that will be part of this situation, most likely. So we do have a very clear linear progression for you, Sagittarius, between all of these energies. The final outcome card for you, Sagittarius, is the Hermit. And this card is showing up reversed. So this is a fellow mutable sign, Virgo's card. And the Hermit, you can see that he is shining this beacon of his enlightenment out into the world. But he maintains solitude, such that when the card shows up reversed like this, because we see this emotional separation from another person, it might also be that you have come to a place in your life where you don't need another person to be happy. So whether or not you are in a romantic relationship, you have become comfortable with your own solitude. And there might be a period of time in the era around which you watch this video, for example, that you do spend time to yourself. And it might be time that you spend learning mastery or developing artistry of some kind. But that your destiny is to shine that enlightenment to others directly and not indirectly, like we see on the Hermit card, where this person is just standing far away from others on the mountaintop and hoping that they will see. I think what you're going to end up doing is bringing this enlightenment to others. So Sagittarius is associated with ninth house energies. You are the ruler of the ninth house. So sometimes let me rephrase that. So ninth house is all of the things that we do to raise ourselves up, to raise our vibrations and our energy, to try to reach our maximum potential. And so this involves things like higher education. It also involves things like spiritual organizations. So these two cards showing up in the reading together as they have, you might end up being a teacher. You might be teaching courses. You might also be a spiritual leader. Now, we don't have the Hierophant coming out here, so this might not be something that's very structured. This might be just a situation where you have attained a certain level of enlightenment and you're able to share it with others. You might even be like somebody who becomes a Reiki master and then starts teaching Reiki to others, things like that. So, Sagittarius, I think you win the fire sign readings this week. No offense to the other signs, of course. That is going to conclude the fire sign readings. Sorry about that for this week. thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you to everyone who has watched this video. Thank you for those of you who showed up for the live. I greatly appreciate your support. And until we meet again,